So I'm going to assume that we've got a lot of independent artists in here.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, amazing. Show of hands, independent artists. Woo! Just know you're hearing this.
Yeah, but we stole my introduction.
Okay, amazing. So I am going to be speaking to you guys today about PR, which you guys would know now because I already had an amazing introduction. My name is Lisa-Marie Boateng. I have worked in music PR for about 7.5 years. I accidentally slipped and fell into PR one day. I actually started off in marketing. So I interned at Sony Music just out of university in marketing, did it for about 1.5 years, realized that I hated it. Shouts out to all the marketeers, if there's any marketeers in the building, but it just was not for me. It was too much for my brain. I was like, this isn't that cute, this isn't that glamorous. And fell into a life of PR. So I was recruited into a PR agency called We Care A Lot PR, which focused a lot on rock talent, which, can you guys see me doing rock? Can you guys see me doing rock PR? Potentially.
Not really.
I fell into rock PR and then very quickly progressed into more traditional PR in traditionally black music, but worked on everything from US to UK, domestic talent, and then went back to Sony, went to Columbia Records. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Columbia Records.
Big L?
Pardon?
I think Big L was part of it.
Big L? Big L from the US. Yeah, so he was from the US side. So I was at Sony Music UK for about 3.5 years, heading up the press department. And I had the pleasure of working with a bunch of amazing talent. You can see a few of the ones that I've worked with up here. Everyone from Busta Rhymes, David O, Mariah the Scientist. And I've had a really fun and exciting, at times tough journey in music PR, but it's been amazing. And I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. So, show of hands, what is PR? Wildest guess.
Public relations.
Public relations. And what does PR entail to you?
Interacting with your fan base.
Exactly.
Building presence.
Building a presence, absolutely. So I'm going to be looking down at my notes because I like to ramble sometimes and I just want to keep it concise because we only have 40 minutes. So be loud, but can you back it up? Real talk, what PR is and what PR isn't. The truth about music PR is that being noticed and being loud and throwing things out and trying to connect with your audience is amazing, but it can't be the only thing. And I think we've got into a time, especially now with social media, where a lot of talent like to give regular updates and regularly touch bases with their fan base, but sometimes the talent or the music or the offering isn't really all the way there, and then they kind of put themselves out, but they don't really have much to follow up with. So it is essential to be able to connect with your audience, but if what's behind the noise isn't real, then it kind of loses its legs. Cool. Core modern principles of music PR. So press releases. Who's familiar with press releases? So a press release is, you can almost call it like a hypothesis or a mini write-up of what your music is about, what you're saying in that music. And it really is seen as like kind of the basics of just being able to communicate with publications about what you want to tell within the music, who you are as an artist, but a lot of people just send it out. I always tell talent, when you're reading your PR, you need to be as convinced as the person that you're trying to convince. So every time you read it, you need to be like, okay, cool, this is what I'm saying, these are the touch points that I want to be able to give. And if that story isn't consistent, then it really is hard for publications to follow along. Has anybody ever had a write-up in a blog or on a website? You have? Yeah. And what was the first point of contact?
In what website? I don't know you about that.
What was the first point of contact? As in, did you reach out to the publication? Did they come to you?
So I've had a couple where it's been a bit of both. Some people have found me, some people have submitted hub and stuff like that. I've sent it to them.
Nice. Nice. And did you feel like whatever was told was true to you and true to your music?
Mixed bag, to be honest. Some of them it was like, that's not what this is about.
Right.
But some of them is pretty precise.
Amazing. So as independent artists, it's really, really important for you to know what you're saying more than anybody else is going to know what you're saying. So I always say, in the early stages, especially when you're grassroots, you want to be able to speak about yourself in the way that you want other people to speak about you. So having a really concise idea of what you want to tell and the story and the journey from where you are currently is super, super important, because your PR grows with you. What works for you today might not work for you tomorrow. So it's really important for you to have a range and an idea of the story that you're trying to tell from early on. One core principle, authenticity. That beats appearance. So you can do all of the talking and, putting music out there and throwing stuff out, telling people to listen to it. But if the story isn't authentic and if it doesn't connect to your audience, it falls on deaf ears, right? You'll know that. Consistency over credibility. So, consistency that builds credibility. So being consistent, making sure that you're touching base with your current fan base, growing with them as they grow with you, and just showing up over time is actually more important than doing like really big drops, right? Community first. Who here is starting to build their community, just trying to get people to lean more into your music? It's really important that you understand the language and the tone of the people that you're trying to connect with, because if they don't get it, then you can't grow them, right? You can't grow a community if nobody really understands what you're trying to say. So even if it's just a really small group of people, really leaning into that community of people and that the tone of voice of those people is so instrumental in widening out your appeal as an artist. Narrative. That's your why, that's your PR, that's the narrative. And building that out, obviously that changes throughout an artist's career and their lifespan, and they're gonna have different touch points of different things that they want to tell at different times, supporting different releases and putting out different things throughout their career. But having something that goes just beyond the music and having something to say, that is a core principle of PR. Because I can listen to a good song all day. There's so many good songs on TikTok every day. We all know TikTok, right? There's a new favorite song every week. Me and my friend on the way here was listening to Unicorn, and she didn't even realize that it was Justin Bieber. And I'm like, that's literally how people ingest music now. So as an artist, being able to have a story and have a why and a narrative that you can speak about outside of just the music is so, so core and so, so important. And then process, not destination. It's so important to be able to say that, these are the touch points that I had throughout a campaign. These were the things that I wanted to amplify and highlight, as opposed to just, I'm going to put this out and hope that a publication runs it. Like, there needs to be some kind of a process that people can actually buy into and lean into, because otherwise you're just putting out a bunch of, random releases, which are great in the meantime. But I think when you're trying to build yourself out as an artist and someone with a true voice and a true message to give, it's so, so important to be consistent in telling that story. I think all of these things work in tandem, right? So music, which I haven't had the luxury of being able to work in, it's definitely a part of the promotion process. But in terms of from a PR perspective, I think it's important for your audience to understand you. So you mentioned your social media channels, right? Being consistent in the narrative that you're telling via your social media channels. So whether it's you drop a piece of artwork and then you go into detail about what the thought process was behind the artwork, and then you go into a little bit more detail about the kind of topics you're going to cover within the music. So really just trying to get people to understand the thoughts and the different inspirations that went into this specific release, if that makes sense. So consistently building what that narrative is, whether it's in your captions, whether it's in the kind of imagery you're putting out, like just trying to create a conversation around it from early on is super, super important, because I've had a lot of times where artists have come to me with 4 days, a 4-day window for a release, and they're like, I want to get publications to run, whether it's coverage on the actual release or, they've got this song coming. I think it's so easy to lose people's attention that you want to bind them in with some kind of a story and a narrative. So just being as communicative as you can be with the things that you're putting out, whether it's on your social media channels, whether it's going out and, going to events, speaking to your community, speaking to the kind of people you're trying to reach, and steady building that conversation through those forums. So just being as conversational as you can be in the ways that you can be conversational, especially for grassroots artists. Publications, I don't know if you guys are familiar with any publications, but with a lot of the ones that we look to, like the Clashes of the world and the Enemies and the Wonderlands, like they're amazing, but they're for when you're a little bit more established and when there's already a conversation happening. So you have to kind of put the onus on yourself to create that conversation for you and for your community from a lot earlier on.
So the right kind of PR,
yeah,
can help us create that conversation.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So you create that conversation for yourself. A lot of publications, sometimes they run, news pieces on new talent and grassroots talent if they are really, really excited about it, or if there's some kind of hype already occurring. And that's why I say, what is PR and what isn't PR? PR is supposed to amplify. It's not supposed to create the story. But for you as an artist, it's super, super important for you to start the conversation for yourself. And then obviously, as you continue to put out music, as a hype continues to grow, these publications will then turn around. So it's kind of reverse manufacturing. Like, there kind of has to be a pulse before these publications really tune in. So creating that conversation for yourself means that you get to navigate that. Only you know what's going on in your head as an artist, right? Only you know what you want your final destination to be, or what you want that release to meet, or what it is you're trying to achieve there. So it's important for you to have that, to start that conversation, and then they will take the onus and run that story and further build that narrative for you further down the line. Okay, so creative ways to self-PR. What are some creative ways you guys use currently?
Lyric videos, visualizers.
Lyric videos, pseudo videos, they're amazing, right? Because people get to feel the music in the way that they will, right? You don't have to throw loads and loads of money into music videos or put loads of money into, all of these crazy, like, illustrious things for people to feel the music. Like, those are great. And they're actually really good ways to make money and monetize. A really good way, I know I've spoken a lot about, starting the conversation for yourself, documenting yourself. So you guys are both doing that really, really well, self-documenting. Do you guys ever watch those like celebrity documentaries on like Netflix? Like Kanye had Ye and Taylor Swift had her one. And you're like, where did they get all of this B-side from? Like, how far along, like, when did you guys start recording this stuff and how can you retrieve it? It's so important to document your journey. So showing the making of whether you're producing a song or writing a song or going back to your home country and getting, the inspiration for the type of music that you make. Like, those things are super, super important because people always want to be able to go back and reference. And I do it all day. Like, I'll be on my Instagram literally just watching people's, watching other people just live their life. Like, people love that kind of content, and that kind of content performs so, so well. So it's a good means of just like drawing people in. Everybody loves to, I know I love to watch them, but I love to watch like a Get Ready With Me or a Come With Me Too, and then it could be your song at the back of it. Like, that's a really creative way to self-PR and push your own music out. Building micro moments. So, I don't know, it's very different for different scenes. So like in the underground scene, like if you was an underground artist, for example, I don't know if we've got any underground artists in here, but if you was an underground artist, for example, going to pop-ups and going to underground raves and like creating stills from those moments and trying to, whether it's putting your music behind it, posting those and giving it to your fans for them to kind of see that like you're in it and you're in that scene with them. Super, super important as well. Tapping into your scene again. I don't know if we've got anybody that's part of like a subculture or a community. But try and do those things. It's super, super important. We was having a conversation upstairs about how important it is to, go outside of yourself and not, silo yourself into just where you're from. Like, it's super, super important to go outside and build community, get in front of people, have conversations. Even for me as a PR, like, I would have probably never had a job in music if I didn't go outside and network and really meet people that could help build my community, so that I knew what was offered to me within the industry. I knew I didn't like marketing, but somebody had to tell me that I was good at PR for me to even start doing it. So it's really important to go outside, meet people and tap into scenes so that you can actually see where you can be of resource and what can be of resource to you. I work with a lot of new talent. Obviously I've worked with really big talent, but I work with a lot of like grassroots talent who are really just getting their foot in. And I think it is definitely, everybody doesn't just wake up confident and want to go outside and like make friends, but it's so important. And you can do it in your own way that feels comfortable to you as long as you're doing it. Like being outside, meeting people, creating that community, getting your message out there, fine-tuning your message from the people that you're meeting is so, so, so key and so important. Like, it's the reason why artists work with each other. It's the reason why artists collaborate with each other, because you need community, you need connection, you need relationship, and people see that. Like, you can tell an artist who's tried to do everything on their own from artist that's clearly, you know, been collaborative and worked in tandem with other artists and other producers and other creatives. And that's is super, super key. Sorry to cut you, but just to move on for a second. Community storytelling and using your platforms, like pitching small is so important. You guys are in Leicester. Leicester's an amazing place to start because everybody hasn't tapped in yet. That is so much room and opportunity for you to do something big from where you are. Like, we was having this conversation upstairs about how everybody feels like, you know, oh, I'm gonna go to London and make it big. I'm gonna go to New York and make it big. I'm gonna go to LA and make it big. And those places are great because, you know, you're right in the center of like capitalism and, you know, it's kind of like this windmill and this like hamster wheel of just success, or so it seems. Like, you're in a place where you can literally go from literally no one knowing you to the entire city knowing you. And I think it's important to not even necessarily pitch someone, maybe I've used the wrong word there, but pitch in tandem with where you are right now. So local blogs, pitch small and then grow bigger. So local newspapers, local forums, local venues, and that way you can actually curate yourself for when bigger opportunities do come. And they're really proving grounds. If you are reaching 10 people here and they will tell you you're absolutely shit, you can go back to the drawing board, right? But if you go big, it's really hard to come back and try and retell it again. So I think it's really important to make use of where you are, whether it's, you know, gonna take a little bit longer to build out, at least you can build it and fine tune over time. Again, using your own platforms, we've kind of covered that already. Community storytelling, so getting your fans involved. Obviously, when you're really new, you're not going to be in a place where you've got a whole bunch of people showing up to, you know, who are in your fan base, who are going to show up and try and help you create these moments. But trying to find us, even if it's just a small group of people who can help you and feedback with you is super, super important. So kind of self-PR in that way of like building your own community, super key. And show, don't tell. Don't just be putting out music and saying, oh, go and listen to my song. It doesn't work that way anymore. We are in a very, very, very oversaturated industry where huge artists are telling people to go listen to their music and they're not doing so. So again, it's going back and telling people, this is what this song means to me. This is why this song is important. If this is something that connects with you, go and have a listen, and doing that on a consistent basis over time will work.
Giving the story behind the art.
Exactly, giving a story and a narrative behind the art. That's all PR is about. You can take something that is black and we all know it's black, and you're like, there's a story. There's a story behind this pole being black, and this is why it's important. And that's what really pulls people in. That's what makes all of the difference. Not just the genre of people, but the identity of the people. Where do they like to hang out? What do they like to eat? What do they like to do in their spare time? Like, really get into the crux of who it is you're trying to reach. And obviously, when you get to a place where your music is on a bigger platform and you're reaching more people, you don't have to fine-tune as much, or you don't need to fine-tune as much. But in the beginning stages, it's important to have a really clear idea on who exactly it is you're trying to connect with so that you can tailor to them. And then cultural fit, trying to align yourself with the things that you actually want to become. So if, let's say you want to be a Kanye at some point, and you want to produce and you want to make music and you want to try and align yourself with the kinds of people that are in that space. So again, going back out, creating community, etc. Super, super key and super, super important. So I've worked with a lot of grassroots talent in more of a label capacity, but I think all of the keys are pretty much the same. It's having your sound, fine-tune your sound, understanding your sound, and having a pocket for yourself. And then really working in tandem with teams, so collaborating with other creators is always super, super important with grassroots talent. And that's what I'm saying to you guys, creating that community and going outside of yourself and not just kind of siloing yourself into just, this is the kind of music I make and this is all I want to make. Trying to expand your horizons by creating and connecting with other creators is super important. In the early stages, is really just getting the music right. That's why I say be loud, but can you back it up? Like, what is the music actually doing and what is it saying? Yeah, so that's really key. And then obviously doing the community bits, like I'm saying, going out to your local blogs and your local websites and trying to create that story for yourself is generally what it looks like with a lot of my grassroots talent. So definitely always having, well, you would hope to have some press images ready to go, just so that when you meet people and they go and try and have a look at like your digital footprint, I guess you can say, that they can understand your the visual story that you're trying to tell as an artist. So press images, obviously you're not going to necessarily be in a place where you have huge budgets to create these shoots and run these things, but just so that people can kind of try and understand you from a visual aspect. A press release, guys, we all have access to AI and ChatGPT, at least I would hope. You can obviously use that as a means to input what you would say about your music, and then ChatGPT will help you formulate that. Please do not copy and paste your PR straight from ChatGPT straight into an email, because it's going to be so obvious that it's ChatGPT. But trying to edit that and have at least like almost like a boilerplate of just who you are as an artist. You're obviously not going to have enough information to put on a boilerplate, but just having some type of information that's on a sheet that people can read back about you as an artist is super, super important, just so they can get to understand your thought process and what your sound is and all of those things. And then when do you invite someone in? I think it really is, it really depends. You can get someone in early if you need guidance. And if you really are out of your depths and you really don't know where to start, then you would bring someone in just as a means of like soundboarding. But in terms of like actually getting a PR on board, like one thing I always say to talent is I want to take anybody's money who wants to give it to me as a PR, but it is really, really, there are times where artists have come to me and asked me for PR, and I've had to say I don't think it's the right time for PR, just because I don't think you will get out of it what you think you're going to get out of it in terms of going out to wider publications or pitching yourself out as a talent just yet. So I think it really just depends. I think it's more about deciding, because you do have some talent who put out 1 or 2 songs and they're like picking up loads of traction on radio, and they're like, I don't know what to do with all of this. How do I get someone to manage this? So I think it really does depend on the person, because everybody's journey is different. But yeah, I think it kind of depends. I've had some people come to me with 2 songs out and they don't even have press images, and I'm like, I can't do anything with this, and you're going to be wasting your money thinking you're getting anything out of this conversation, because press is supposed to amplify, not create the story.
Are you talking about images of themselves or like a random artist?
It depends. Like if you're an artist who isn't really front facing, then you probably don't need like a full, editorial shoot. But just images that can tell your visual story as an artist, because people need to be able to see anything. We're such visual beings, especially in the creative industry.
Thinking about independent creator,
yes.
What kind of budget, if they really wanted to get somebody to help them in one release, one album, what would you say for?
I think for a single, I actually think you can get a lot done with like £300. I'm not gonna hold you. Like I actually think you could get a lot done with like a £300 budget, just to get some still images on like a white backdrop. You won't need any styling. You could probably wear clothes that you already have. Potentially, that would probably go on like a photographer or videographer more than anything. Like somebody who's actually going to get the images to you. But I think for a grassroots artist, I think you could probably get a lot of stuff done on a pretty like small budget, just for the sake of your overheads. But I think it definitely depends on what you're trying to achieve in those shoots, what you're trying to tell in those shoots. Is it for an album, or is it for, a EP release or a single release? I think it depends. I would always advise, if you are going to try and get images for a single, you should probably look to get enough images that will work for like following singles as well, if you are the kind of artist that wants to be in your own imagery.
What sort of like lead times, because I know, like you said, people a lot of the time trying to do stuff with like 4 days or, and obviously like, there's what timelines would a PR person like advise like a new artist to pre and post release to be sharing this story?
I think that if you are going to be an artist who wants press to pick your stuff up, you need to be inviting press in early in the conversation. So once you have a single that you're like, I'm definitely releasing this is the date that I have in mind for this, I would start inviting press into the conversation as early as possible. A lot of artists and a lot of talent that I work with like to think of press as this like icing on top of the cake, but it's actually the sugar. Like especially if you're trying to tell a story and again, communicate this narrative that you need that you want people to really be aware of, you want to bring press in a little bit earlier in time. So even if it's cold emailing and just dropping certain people lines about your music, just kind of putting that bug in their ear and then being able to chase it up. Like for me, whether it's a single release or an album release, I always tell my talent, I need 6 to 8 weeks to really make anything shake. Like, because I'm going to need time to pitch, and then I'm going to need time to chase, and then I'm going to need time to chase again. I'm probably going to get ignored, so I'm going to need to chase again. And that's even with bigger talent. So I think when you're at more grassroots phase, bringing press in from as early as possible. Once you know exactly what your product is and what you're putting out, and you're confident in it, I would start reaching out to publications.
Do you still find like press and radio and I guess like, not legacy media, that's the wrong word, but is that still, even in the social media age, you still think that's really valuable? Like,
I think press is always going to be important because I think that's what separates kind of what's being pushed and what's actually meaningful. Because a lot of these publications the publications that we would want to go to are respected, right? They add that credibility. So I think press is always going to be important for solidifying and for being able to convey a specific message. I don't think that press is ever going to be fully lost. Otherwise, Beyonce wouldn't be the cover of GQ or the cover of British Vogue. Like those forums are always going to be important. And so will the NMEs of the world. Like NME is all about new music. Like those places are always going to be important when you're looking at the wider picture of like culture. Otherwise, there would be no difference between a Justin Bieber and I'm not going to offend anybody by saying another name, but a smaller talent who has maybe just as many numbers, right? So yeah, I think press is always going to be an important conversation. Traditional press has definitely changed. Press has definitely taken up a whole different lane and a whole different conversation and maybe serves a different purpose, but it still serves a purpose.
Win locally before you...
Win locally before you try and conquer the world. Unless, of course, mainstream or, global appeal comes before the local. You know, you've got some talent that are not in any way associated with where they're from. You just know who they are because you know who they are. But definitely win locally first. I'm all about like understanding being a master of your territory before trying to go outside. Well, that was your crash course on PR.